CoreWeave 112% surge. Will your Capex destroy returns? CoreWeave's 112% surge demands that you foster safer AI growth and protect your execution quality. CoreWeave's 112% revenue surge to $2.58 billion in Q2 2026 proves AI demand is real, but your bigger question should be whether growth remains economically sustainable. Shares gained about 14% after revenue beat the $2.56 billion consensus and adjusted loss narrowed to $1.03 versus $1.20, yet profitability remains unresolved. The $104.2 billion backlog and more than $25 billion in commitments provide visibility, but backlog becomes cash only through delivery, utilization, timing, financing, and contracts concentrated over 2 to 4 years. Active power reached 1.5 gigawatts after a 500 megawatt quarterly addition, showing physical capacity drives revenue. However, power availability can become the bottleneck behind otherwise attractive AI contracts. Backlog expanded from $66.8 billion in 2025 to $99.4 billion in Q1 2026 and $104.2 billion in Q2, increasing visibility while simultaneously increasing fulfillment obligations. Q2 capital expenditure reached $9.4 billion, pushing 2026 guidance from $31 to $35 billion up to $35 to $39 billion. That acceleration materially increases financing, execution, depreciation, and liquidity risk. CoreWeave's $8.5 billion GPU-backed facility demonstrates financing access, but you should evaluate whether debt maturities, interest costs, asset lives, and customer contracts remain properly aligned. Quarterly net loss widened to $626 million from $290 million, following a $740 million Q1 loss, while $536 million of interest expense highlights the cost of aggressive scaling. The company's $12.4 to $13.2 billion 2026 revenue guidance and $960 million to $1.15 billion adjusted operating income outlook suggest improving leverage, but capital efficiency remains the decisive performance test. L-Impact Solutions argues that backlog growth alone is insufficient. Management must measure customer concentration, contract duration, pricing, cancellation provisions, power availability, margins, delivery status, and counterparty strength. Your investment lens should shift from how much capacity can be built toward what return does each additional infrastructure dollar generate, because capital intensity can outrun revenue conversion. AI infrastructure remains exposed to interest rates, credit spreads, semiconductor shortages, electricity pricing, grid interconnection, construction costs, depreciation, and changing enterprise AI spending, making stress testing essential. Management should approve major data center projects only after contribution margin, utilization, payback period, and cash return thresholds are established, with weak projects renegotiated, deferred, or canceled before committing billions of capital. A stronger backlog framework should separate committed economics by customer concentration, contracted power, deployment status, recognition timing, pricing, projected gross margins, and customer creditworthiness rather than headline contract value. Diversifying funding across debt, GPU-backed facilities, equipment financing, and operating cash flow can reduce liquidity concentration, while the $8.5 billion facility demonstrates both opportunity and dependency. CoreWeave should prioritize higher-value managed inference and auxiliary services, measuring gross profit per megawatt, operating income per megawatt, GPU revenue, utilization, and cash returns instead of aggregate revenue. Power risk must enter capital allocation directly. Contracted electricity, interconnection milestones, redundancy, cooling, procurement, and construction schedules determine whether expensive GPU infrastructure becomes productive or stranded. Quarterly stress tests should model 20% lower GPU utilization, 15% higher electricity costs, higher interest rates, 6-month construction delays, slower customer acquisition, semiconductor shortages, and compressed pricing. Customer concentration requires explicit internal thresholds because a $104 billion backlog can still conceal systemic exposure when hyperscalers or specialized AI laboratories represent disproportionate contracted revenue. L-Impact Solutions recommends resilient AI expansion through modular construction, verified demand triggers, margin dashboards, liquidity reserves, alternative suppliers, diverse power options, financing flexibility, and explicit cash flow milestones. Can your AI growth survive $9.4 billion quarterly Capex? Comment your answer below. For more analyses, visit our consultancy website. Link in description below. Thank you.